Your WhatsApp messages are not private. And I do not mean that in the vague, theoretical way that tech journalists write about every few months. I mean right now, today, on the phone sitting in your pocket, there is a setting that is turned on by default that creates an unencrypted copy of every single message you have ever sent or received and stores it in a cloud. A system that WhatsApp cannot protect, that governments can legally access without your knowledge, and that criminals have already used to drain bank accounts and destroy lives. It is called Cloud Backup. It is enabled by default on almost every device. And changing one specific setting is the difference between your private conversations, being genuinely private, and them being permanently exposed in a place that end-to-end encryption does not reach. If you have ever sent a bank detail over WhatsApp, discussed your finances, shared a private photo, or said anything you would not want a stranger to read, this video is not optional viewing. Watch it to the end, then make the change before you close this app. To understand why this matters, you first need to understand what end-to-end encryption actually means, and a bit more importantly, what it does not mean. WhatsApp has been telling users for years that their messages are end-to-end encrypted. That statement is technically true, while simultaneously being dangerously misleading. End-to-end encryption protects a message while it is in transit, while it is traveling from your phone to the recipient's phone across the internet. During that journey, yes, the message is scrambled and unreadable to anyone intercepting it. WhatsApp cannot read it. Your mobile provider cannot read it. A government body trying to intercept it mid-transmission cannot read it. That part is real. But end-to-end encryption stops the moment a message arrives at its destination. Once it lands on your device, it is decrypted. And if your device is set to back up its data to Google Drive or iCloud, which most people's devices are because that backup is turned on during initial setup and almost nobody changes it, then a copy of that decrypted message is uploaded to the cloud in a form that is not protected by WhatsApp's encryption at all. It is protected only by Google's or Apple's own security. And that is a completely different level of protection. A level of protection that fails regularly, that is subject to legal access requests, and that has already been the entry point for some of the most damaging private data exposures of the past several years. Here is the specific mechanism you need to understand. When cloud backup is enabled, your phone creates a complete copy of your WhatsApp chat history and uploads it to your cloud storage account. On Android, that is Google Drive. On iPhone, that is iCloud. This backup file contains the full text of every message, every photo, every voice note, every document, and every video you have ever exchanged on WhatsApp. All of it. And unlike the messages themselves during transit, this backup file has historically been stored without WhatsApp's end-to-end encryption applied to it. That meant that Google and Apple could access the contents if required. It meant that any legal authority issuing a valid data request to Google or Apple could obtain your complete WhatsApp history without your knowledge and without needing to touch your phone. And it meant that anyone who gained access to your Google or Apple account through a phishing link, a compromised password, a SIM swap, or any of the other methods that criminals use routinely could download your entire WhatsApp history, every message, every photo, every piece of private information you believed was protected. This is not speculation. This is how private messages from public figures, business executives, legal professionals, and ordinary people have been obtained and exposed. The backup is the backdoor, not a theoretical backdoor, not a backdoor that requires sophisticated state-level hacking. A structural backdoor built into the default configuration that anyone with access to your cloud account can walk straight through without any technical knowledge and without leaving a trace that you would ever detect. WhatsApp did eventually respond to this problem by introducing end-to-end encrypted backups, a feature that, when enabled, applies the same level of encryption that protects your messages in transit to the backup file stored in the cloud. When this is turned on, even Google and Apple cannot access the contents of your backup. A legal authority requesting it from them gets an encrypted file they cannot read. A criminal who compromises your Google account finds an encrypted archive that is completely useless without the key that only you hold. This is the setting that changes everything. And it is not turned on by default. That matters enormously because it means that for the vast majority of WhatsApp's users, people who set up their phone, accepted the defaults, and have been using the app for years without revisiting these settings, the backdoor is still wide open right now, today, in the device you're holding. The process of enabling end-to-end encrypted backup is straightforward, but you need to know exactly where to look. Open WhatsApp. Tap the three dots in the top right corner on Android, or go to Settings on iPhone. Go to Chats, then go to Chat Backup. You will see the option for end-to-end encrypted backup. Tap it. Enable it. The system will ask you to either set a password, a strong one that you will need to remember, or generate a long encryption key that you store securely yourself. Either method works. The password option is more practical for most people. Choose a password that is genuinely strong, write it down somewhere secure that is not on the same device, and confirm. Your backup will now be encrypted end-to-end. From that point forward, the backup stored in your cloud is as protected as the messages themselves during transit. The backdoor closes. But here is where the warning escalates. Because enabling encrypted backup only solves part of the problem. The other part lives in the backups that already exist. Every unencrypted backup that was uploaded to your Google Drive or iCloud before you made this change is still sitting there, still unencrypted, still accessible in the same way it always was. Changing the setting going forward does not automatically delete or re-encrypt the historical backups. You need to go into your Google Drive or iCloud settings separately and delete the old WhatsApp backup files manually. On Google Drive, open the app, tap the menu, go to Backups, find the WhatsApp entry, and delete it. Let the fresh encrypted backup replace it once it runs. On iCloud, go to Settings on your iPhone, tap your name, tap iCloud, tap Manage Account Storage, find WhatsApp, and delete the existing backup. Let the new encrypted version replace it on the next backup cycle. Until you do this, the historical record of every conversation you have ever had remains exposed, even if your future messages are now properly protected. The people who are most at risk and who are least likely to realize it are exactly the people this warning is directed at. People who use WhatsApp to conduct business, people who have shared financial information, addresses, identity documents, or account credentials over chat because it felt easier than email. People in legal situations where private messages could be used against them. People in relationships, personal or professional, where the content of private conversations is genuinely sensitive. And people who have been using WhatsApp for years, accumulating a history they have never thought about in security terms because the end-to-end encryption label made them believe it was all protected. The label is real. The protection it described was incomplete. The backup was always the gap, and the gap has been sitting open since the day they first installed the app and accepted the default settings without reading what they meant. There is a broader pattern here that goes beyond this single setting and that every smartphone user needs to understand. The way technology companies have structured their privacy defaults for the past decade has consistently prioritized ease of onboarding over genuine user protection. Default settings are not neutral technical choices. They are decisions made deliberately about what most users will accept without questioning. Turning cloud backup on by default was a product decision. Turning encrypted backup off by default was a product decision. And those two decisions together, made in a meeting somewhere years ago, have left hundreds of millions of people with an open backdoor in the most private communication platform on their phone. Understanding this pattern means understanding that whenever you install a new application, accept a new service, or configure a new device, the default is almost never the most private option available to you. The default is the most convenient option for the company. Genuine privacy requires active decisions, not passive acceptance of whatever the setup screen recommended. The action this video is asking you to take is simple, it is free, and it takes under 3 minutes to complete. Open WhatsApp, go to Settings, go to Chats, go to Chat Backup, enable end-to-end encrypted backup. Set your password, write it down somewhere safe. Then go to your cloud storage, find the old unencrypted WhatsApp backup, and delete it. That sequence of actions moves your entire conversation history from being structurally accessible to anyone with your cloud credentials into being genuinely mathematically protected by encryption that not even the platforms storing it can break. The backdoor closes permanently. The exposure ends. And everything you assumed was private when you sent it finally becomes private in reality and not just in the reassuring label on WhatsApp's loading screen. Make the change today, not after the next video, not this weekend when you have more time. Today, before you put this phone back in your pocket. And share this with anyone in your contacts who uses WhatsApp for anything they consider sensitive, because the overwhelming majority of them have no idea this setting exists, no idea their backup has been exposed in this way, and every single day that passes without this change is another day that Backdoor stays open. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the settings that put your data at risk evolve constantly, and the only way to stay protected is to stay informed. The conversation around digital privacy has been dominated for too long by abstract arguments about corporate data practices and government surveillance programs that feel distant from everyday life. What this WhatsApp setting makes undeniably clear is that the real vulnerability is not abstract at all. It is sitting in the default configuration of an app that billions of people use to communicate with their families, manage their finances, run their businesses, and share their most personal moments. The gap between what people believe about the privacy of their messages and what is actually true about where those messages are stored and who can access them is one of the most consequential misunderstandings in modern technology. Closing that gap starts with one setting. It takes 3 minutes, and there is no reason to wait another day to do it. Everything private that you have ever sent deserves to actually be private. This change is how you make that true. One more thing that most guides on this topic completely skip over is what happens to devices that are shared or handed down. If you have ever sold an old phone, given it to a family member, or traded it in through your carrier, and that device was signed into your Google or Apple account at any point while WhatsApp was installed and backing up, there's a live record of your conversations attached to that cloud account. Changing the setting on your current device does not address the historical backup trail connected to every device that ever ran WhatsApp under your account. This is why deleting the old unencrypted backup from your cloud storage is not optional. It is the essential second step that makes the first step meaningful. The setting change protects what is being created from this moment forward. Deleting the old backup protects everything that was created before. Both steps together are what actually closes the backdoor completely. The companies storing your data are not going to remind you to do this. Nobody is going to send you a notification telling you that your old unencrypted backup is still sitting in your storage and that it represents a live exposure. That is exactly why you're watching this video, and exactly why sharing it with the people in your life who use this app every day matters more than it might seem. The 3 minutes this takes today could be the most important 3 minutes you spend on your phone this year. Do it now. The fix is free, it is permanent, and it is available on your phone right now. There is nothing standing between you and closing this backdoor except the next 3 minutes.